Hello everyone, my name is Liam Madden.
And my name is Alex Jędrzejewski.
Today we are going to be doing a literary podcast on the book Trevor Noah, Born a Crime.
Yay!
So, I will say this, when we started reading the book, I honestly had no idea who Trevor Noah was. And then after reading the book, I actually really liked it. So then I looked up who Trevor Noah was. And I listened to one of his comedy sketches about what it means to be mixed and what it means to be black. And I gotta say, he is a pretty funny guy. And the book is pretty good, so we're gonna talk about it today. Alright, so basically, before we get started, I'll just summarize the beginning of the book. Trevor's born to this lady named Patricia, and Patricia was a victim of what was called the black tax, which is where your family is poor, and so when you make money as an adult, all your money goes just to helping your family before you. And so Patricia has Trevor. They grow up, usually alone. He always saw his dad until she met this guy named Abel, who forced him to stop seeing his dad. They went to church, they went to 3 different churches every Sunday. They spent all day at church. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Started school, yada, yada, yada. The interesting part is when he gets into high school, and this is what we are about to read. So the first chapter we're going to cover today.
We're going to be talking about the DJ gig.
Yeah, so I got my book with me, and we're going to be talking about chapter 15, which is called Go Hitler.
Trevor had a fan named Hitler, and he was cheering for him when he was dancing on the floor.
Yeah, so basically, the chapter explains that white people came to South Africa and brought names with them, but they never told the black people what the names actually meant. So basically, the South Africans, they would name their kids things like Hitler because the white people taught them that name, but they never taught them what it meant. So
they
never
just
knew
thought they were a strongman. And they performed a Go Hitler at a Jewish school too.
Oh yeah, so basically chapter 15 starts off by explaining when Trevor gets his epic setup. You see, he gets a computer and he gets a CD writer.
That's when he starts copying CDs illegally.
Yes, so he got a computer, a monitor, a CD writer, and a hard drive. He copied a bunch of CDs illegally and sold them at school. Yeah. It says he got a 24K modem, which he eventually upgraded to a 56K modem. And he got faster CD writers, multiple CD writers, and once again, eventually, he had so much music saved on his hard drive due to all the CDs he was writing that he was actually able to start doing DJ gigs. So he got a program that allowed him to do digital mixing on the computer.
The name of the program was BPM.
And they could actually start doing gigs. And this was around the time he actually got enough money to where he could eat at McDonald's. I don't know why I felt the need to mention that. So, one kid we knew from the township, and I'm reading from the book here. One kid we knew from the township, his mother was involved in creating cultural programs for schools. In America, they'd called diversity programs. So the kid's mom asked us if we wanted to play at the cultural day at some school in Linksfield, the wealthy suburb of downtown Sandringham, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, where my pal Teddy had lived. There's going to be all different kinds of dancing and music. The name of the school was King David School, a Jewish school. So the day of the event, they booked a minibus, loaded it up with our gear, and drove over. Once we arrived, we waited in the back of the school's assembly hall and watched the acts that went on stage before us. Different groups take turns performing. So basically, this all happens. And as Alex said earlier, they have a friend named Hitler who is a dancer. So then we were up. We were billed as the hip-hop dancers, the South African b-boys. We set up our sound system on stage. I looked out, and the whole hall was nothing but Jewish kids ready to party. I got on the mic and said, "Are you ready to rock out?" "Yeah." "Make some noise." "Yeah." I started playing. The bass was bumping. My crew was dancing. And everyone was having a great time. The teachers, the chaperones, the parents, hundreds of kids, they were all dancing like crazy. Our set was scheduled for 15 minutes, and at the 10-minute mark came the moment for me to play Let's Get Dirty, bring up my star dancer, and shut stuff down.
The star dancer's name was Hitler. And and Trevor started shouting, "Go Hitler!" And then Trevor thought he got kicked out because of his dance move.
Yeah,
and it was because he was shouting, "Go Hitler!" which was a politician who killed many Jews.
Yeah, so basically they keep screaming, "Go Hitler, go Hitler, go Hitler." And then eventually, it says that a teacher ran up behind them, yanked the plug out of their system, and yelled, "How dare you? This is disgusting, you horrible, disgusting, vile creature. How dare you?" Now, keep in mind, Trevor had never been taught about the Nazis at that time, so he had no idea what was going on. And so what he said was, then it clicked. Hitler had a special dance move called Ospanava. It means where you work, and it was very sexual. His hips would gyrate and thrust like he was effing the air. That was the move he was doing at the moment the teacher ran out. So clearly the dance was the thing she found so disgusting. So now Trevor's confused because he thinks that it's a dance move that offended them. But like he says in the next sentence, this is a dance move that African people do all the time. It's part of our culture. Basically, they shut them down and told them to leave. Do you got any thoughts about that?
Well, Trevor should know better. Hey, he should have asked them they should have asked what he'd be saying during the presentation.
I also feel like one other thing is that the white people should have done a better job educating the South Africans when they came in because they had no idea what they were doing. But yeah, the Jewish school probably should have, checked the program to see what they were going to do. But anyways, that's about it for this chapter. Okay, so I wanted to, we're not going to spend too much time on it, but I wanted to spend a brief amount of time talking about Trevor's love affairs in this book. The first chapter this is mentioned in is A Young Man's Long, Awkward, Occasionally Tragic, and Frequently Humiliating Education and Affairs of the Heart, Part 1. There's 3 different chapters named that, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is basically Trevor meets this girl whose name is Maylene, and she agrees to be his Valentine, right? So everything's going fine. They even kissed right outside of a McDonald's.
Yeah. Hey, she got another boyfriend on the same day. I believe that you shouldn't be able to change boyfriends without having a 1-day warning notice.
Yeah, so literally on the day of Valentine's Day, it says he wrote up. So basically, Trevor saved up a bunch of pocket money, right? He bought her flowers, he bought her a teddy bear, and he bought her a card. Inside the card, he wrote a poem, and the next day, he tried giving this Valentine's present to her, and upon which he was trying to give it to her, she said, and I'm quoting this from the book, "Oh, hi, Trevor. Listen, I can't be your girlfriend anymore. Lorenzo asked me to be his Valentine, and I can't have 2 Valentines. So I'm his girlfriend now and not yours." So, yeah, I feel that Trevor was wronged in this instance because literally he was not even given a day of notice. Like, he actually, went out. They kissed under the McDonald's. He went out, bought her something, and then the day he tried to give it to her, she broke up with him. So I feel he was wronged.
Hey, she broke up with him just because she wanted to be with the popular kid.
Yeah. One other quick thing I wanted to note, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this because there's a couple more important things we need to cover, is that basically he makes this deal with his friend and gets set up with this girl named Babiki for his high school dance. And he goes over to Babiki's house, but he never, talks to her. It literally says in the book he never, talks to her at all.
She doesn't even speak English. I don't think this is right. If you get a girl, then you should at least try to speak English, full sentences. She knew the basics. But I believe that you should be told that at least that she doesn't speak English or anything, even if you're doing business with somebody.
Yeah, and then it gets even worse because basically Babiki, he borrows his friend's BMW. And drives her to the dance. And when they get to the dance, she refuses to leave the car. She just will not leave the car. So Trevor goes into the dance. And keep in mind, this girl is described in the book to be very beautiful. He goes into the dance, gets his friend to help, and then this entire crowd of guys just comes out and they all start gawking at her. You know what I'm saying? So I do have to say, I feel like Trevor could have handled this situation a bit better by, actually building a connection to who was supposed to be his girlfriend. Because I feel like if he would have built more of a connection, she would have actually gotten out of the car and agreed to dance with him. Now, if this was a different situation, I would say that Trevor was the victim and she was in the wrong. But here, I can honestly see why she wouldn't have wanted to get out of the car.
She didn't even speak English, so she couldn't understand what Trevor was saying. That could be another reason why she didn't want to get out of the car.
Yeah, and it seemed like most of the time when they hung out, it was really just Trevor talking to his friend and then his friend translating. So it sounds like a very messy situation. Okay, so we are about to get to the big event of this book, the thing you've all been waiting for, the attempted murder, where Abel almost murders Patricia.
And somehow he gets away with it.
And I'm going to let Alex lead that segment, but before we get there, I think we should talk just a bit about Abel's abuse leading up to this incident. So it says in the book that Abel was not oftenly abusive. When I say that, he'd do something abusive, and then it would be like 3 years of normalcy, and then he'd do something even more abusive. Then there'd be like 3 years of normalcy. Then he'd get worse, 3 years, worse, 3 years, and it's just a cycle. The first ever instance of this was, and I'm not going to read from the book because I'm going to try and brief through this kind of quickly, but basically, Abel slaps Patricia, and the book says that he slaps her so hard she actually ricochets off the wall. And the next notable instance of Abel's abuse is when Trevor forges his mother's signature, and so he punches him in the ribs, grabs him, tries to wrestle him, and then chases Trevor all the way through the neighborhood, chases him actually 3 neighborhoods away.
I don't think that's a fair punishment for just copying a signature.
Definitely not. And also, before any of this, when Abel was just, adopted into the family kind of, basically, Trevor got into a fight with these other kids, and Abel's like, bring me to them. And so he did. And then Abel starts, he grabs a switch from a tree and starts beating the one kid. And at first you're thinking, he's just kind of defending Trevor. That's nice. Until you actually realize, and this is what Trevor says in his book, Abel wasn't beating him to get revenge. He was just beating him to beat him. You know what I'm saying? So, I completely get it if someone, hurt your child, especially back then. Because nowadays it's a little bit different. People
a little bit. Now it's illegal.
Yeah, but back in the day, parents used to do that. If someone hurt their child, they'd go beat them up for it. So that's a bit different, though, than just actually just beating a kid with a switch to the point where you're actually just trying to hurt him. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think Trevor's dad should have shot Trevor's mom.
Yeah, so the last thing we're going to talk about is the attempted murder of Trevor's mom by Abel.
He shot her because she stopped funding the business that he started making money on, and she stopped helping him make money from the business. And she stopped the business completely because she was actually losing money from the business.
Yeah, and then she divorced him, moved out, and then he came to find her. I think it might have even been a couple years later.
Yeah.
And killed her. Tried to kill himself, but his one cousin convinced him to turn himself in, so he did.
And then he also was excused from jail since he talked to the guy, and he just let him free, just from saying hi, and since he knew him, that he just let him out for free.
Yeah, injustice is a big theme in this book. There's a lot of times where people don't get the proper justice he deserved. Going back to Abel's abuse, Patricia tried reporting Abel several times to the police throughout the years, and the entire time, Abel would just show up at the police station, be nice to the officers, and then just let him go. They wouldn't even file a report. That's part of the reason he was able to get out of jail in the end. It's because he had a blank record because the police never did their job.
Yeah.
All right.
We would both like to thank Miss Tanner for not giving us the 100-question test on this.
Absolutely. If we would have had that 100-question test, that would have been very bad.
Yeah. This would have affected our grades very badly.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Whoever decided to watch this, I hope you enjoyed our literary podcast. And
if, Gio, if you're hearing this, thank you for giving Miss Trevor the idea of the podcast.
All right. See you guys whenever I do my next global presentation.